Hi, this is Christopher Michael Carver with Running Director Productions, and I'm here with Jonathan with Veracity Zone, and he's going to be doing an interview talking a little bit more about the arts in the area of Grand Junction, as well as the stuff that I'll be working on with my films. Okay, Jonathan, so you have some questions?
I have a few. I like doing it off the top of my head, honestly.
Totally fine.
Which I notice you do like doing that in your film, the Static.
Yes, yes.
That came out, what day was that? That was
Static, actually, yes, it was released 2016, October 28th. It was actually filmed. Funny thing about that film is it was actually initially a fillers piece for the Buor Art and Fashion Show, which we held in spring of 2016, earlier this year. And the point was with Buor, view as in beautiful or as in horror, was to create a multimedia show where you could introduce beauty and shock value in the same essence. And so initially Static was just supposed to be something that could kind of like, whoa, that was kind of creepy, and it was supposed to be between like a belly dancer show and a fashion show. So it was a little bit of a filler there.
Alright, so I think what I really want to, first question really is, why did you come here, of all places?
Yes, I ask myself that more and more as I live here. The main thing was, not too long ago, I looked into Colorado Film School. It was ranked in the top 25 film schools in the United States, and in Denver. Now, Denver would have been a big jump for us, and the criteria for it would require that you needed professional references in the art that you've done, as well as more experience. And I felt, okay, let me make myself out west to be somewhere close to there, close to Denver, so I have that in the wings to be able to work on, but also out here where I can, you know, devolve myself into more artists, more filmmakers.
Right. And where were you before this?
I grew up in DeWitt, Iowa. But before I came here, I was actually living in Davenport, which is part of the Quad Cities, the QCA. If you look at any map, it's the nose of Iowa that connects right to Illinois. Yeah. And it was interesting there because when I moved to Grand Junction, I loved the area, and I loved the spots where I could film and do everything, because you have everything you want. You can film in the mountains if you want, you can film in the desert if you want, or you can film in the forest, and all of it's about 20 minutes to an hour away. So a lot of creativity there. But when I came here, something I noticed immediately was that there was no theater community and about a third of the population of the one town that I was used to. So to me, leaving and coming here, although also offers more opportunities, I'd say that at least in Davenport, there was already a scene for everything I'm doing out here. So I guess right now it's kind of part of the task to kind of create that scene and kind of make it work for me.
Before you get into the general what you want to do with the culture around here, which I'm trying to, as you can see.
Absolutely.
Who are your inspirations as far as film?
To tell you the truth, I can't say. It was actually a movie that inspired wanting to do this, because in the beginning my main idea was comics and graphic novels. So if you really wanted to get an idea of what my inspiration was to create, you know, live action films and, you know, expand on that, it was actually manga. I'd say the first manga I read would be the big influence right there. Graphic novels like Spawn, Todd McFarlane. When I saw that again, it was because when you look at a graphic novel, instead of a camera, you're actually using your pen and perspective. You're creating your own visuals in that scene. And so when I was doing my comics and everything, and my little graphic novels, and I'm talking like I was between the ages of 10 and 14, when I was drawing this stuff out, I was seeing all these different perspectives and things like that were in cinema. And I was like, oh my God, that'd be great. It took me a long time to finally get to cinema, but as far as like what really started me to want to create stories and visual storytelling, it'd definitely be like Japanese manga and graphic novels. Nothing specific. I was just a constant reader.
Okay. Cool. Cool. What was your first film?
My first film. It's funny. What I would actually consider a film would be Life as a Film of Perspective, and that was my first one. And I believed, because starting running Director Productions January 1st of 2014, I wanted to do something that was entirely my own creativity. I wanted to do something that if I took it to any studio, they'd say no, like screw you. I wanted to have ultimate creativity, but I also wanted something to test myself a little bit. I wanted to do something that, like, if this gets accepted, everything else will. So Life as a Film of Perspective is about 71 minutes long. It's my first full-length feature, and it was about if homosexuality was the norm compared to heterosexuality. I remember one time I was talking to a character, and there's a point in the film where he says, "No, man, I'm not interested, whatever." Now, that actor agreed to be in my film, and I told him, okay, your motivation is I'm talking about aliens, and you don't believe in me. Because if I would have said what the film was actually about, he would have said no. I mean, after the film got released, he was okay with it, but those are the obstacles I fought. So anyway, by making this first film, my main thing was to, if I can do this, create a film that's so out there with topics, that definitely are in your face, like equal gay rights at the time were a big thing, that I could do anything else after that.
Alright, so, you're working on a film now. Correct?
Yes. Actually, it's in post-production. It's called A Walk Among the Street Lamps.
What's the main, I'm not saying to give any spoilers or anything like that, what's the main theme you're working with?
I think in A Walk Among the Street Lamps, it was kind of a personal reflection for me, because it was a lot of coming to age, and not only the idea of understanding and accepting where you come from, but realizing it to go forward. And actually, I don't know if you've ever read the book by Paulo Coelho, and if I'm saying that wrong, I don't know, called The Alchemist. Have you ever read that book, The Alchemist?
I actually have.
Okay, well, right. Okay, so in the beginning, he explains how the trials of acceptance and success. And one of the last things he says is the hardest thing for people to do when they become successful is to actually accept that they're successful. And A Walk Among the Street Lamps is a huge thing about that, because the main character of the story is basically the night before this gentleman, Malcolm, gets married to his high school sweetheart, Rachel. He goes to sleep and wakes up in this dream-like world where it's a deserted version of his hometown. And in this dream world, he's approached by fate, and fate says to move on, to make it through the night, you will have to face your past and win. So really the whole film becomes an idea about him accepting the fact that, like, because as you watch the film, you realize he has become successful from, bad problem. He has overcome obstacles to be here. So now this whole film is basically him accepting the fact that I do have the love of my life. I do have everything I need, and I should accept that now.
It's letting go.
It's letting go to move forward.
Accepting what he has to. It's really, really interesting. I'm going to have to see that one. Whenever you finish that.
Yeah. You and a bunch of other people. Believe me, I can't even tell you how many people are waiting on that.
So, I know I do this.
Mm-hmm.
I back projects upon projects, in front of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Try to do them all at the same time, but it always turns into one more than the others.
Uh-huh.
And do you have any future ideas?
Oh, absolutely. I got a journal full of ideas, short films and full-length features.
Any particular one you probably think of?
Yes, actually. There's a short film. I found a script, and it was actually supposed to be an addition into an As I Dream feature that I showcased at the Deutsche Cinemas. It was supposed to be a short for that, but it's called I Survived. That's the short film that I'll be working on next. And then, I don't have an official title for this one, but basically the idea, this is, it's a romantic horror which would be my next full-length feature.
Right.
So when I do my horror film, my first real horror film, I wanted to have that essence of a real life thing. I want to have that essence of it could happen to some extent. I'll throw in my own supernatural flair, but that's kind of the ideas of it.
So, you wouldn't consider the two short films you have for the horror music movie festival? You wouldn't consider those horror? But you found that people found the fear enough that, that it related into...
It's funny that you mentioned that. I have never considered anything that I've done more of a horror. I guess I really haven't labeled it, which is an issue for mine. I need to start genre defining my stuff. Or people like, I liked it, what was it? But genre is just a way to market, man. It's really just, it's labeling something to call it this so you can sell to an audience that prefers that.
Yeah.
So I never really thought about it, but I remember with Wake Up, it was the first short film I ever did. It was the follow-up to Life as a Film in Perspective. And when I did that, I basically wanted it to be just an idea. It was just an easy, no dialogue, tell a story through visuals and music. And by the time it was done, when I asked 5 different people what it was about, 5 different people gave me 5 different answers. And I realized to some extent that these people were talking about issues that they were dealing with in their life too. Like for instance, I asked someone about Wake Up and I was like, well, what do you think of the movie? He's like, I feel like it's someone who's trapped in their life, they can't move forward. Surprisingly enough, that's where this gentleman, even having never talked to him about it, that's where he felt his life was at. He felt trapped, like he wasn't moving forward. So when you hear responses like that, and you create this something, and I did it entirely for audience interpretation. It wasn't until recently, actually, that Wake Up was picked up by a horror filmmaker on YouTube, Ashton Jackal. Plug you, man. But Ashton Jackal does independent horror film reviews. And I remember I was trying to gain other exposure online, create more networking with YouTube and the YouTube community. So I was like, hey man, check out this film. It's not really horror, but what would you think of it? He took it, loved it, said it was everything that it could be. Horror doesn't have to be blood and gore. It could be a psychological thing.
Yeah, it could be a man breaking down on his bathroom floor.
Exactly. It could. Exactly. Someone saw the movie. But yeah, so when he said that, the only other thing that I could come close to, and it's just because it was dark and had blood, was Static. So when I met, when we first discussed this interview at that horror film fest, the fact that they were up on the screen at all is just because I believe that I made a film up to audience interpretation, and the right audience was horror. So that's just how it ended up there. But no, I do not consider them scary horror films.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That you actually they were part of the horror film fest, but you would never consider them horror.
I know, actually. Psychological, maybe. Maybe thriller to some extent. I don't know.
I found Static. I thought Static in general it did definitely have the horror aura for horror, but it was very obvious more of an art piece than